All right, so on behalf of Dr. Stephen Aizenstat, the Dream Tending Community, the Academy of Imagination in Pacifica Graduate Institute, I would like to welcome you all to this amazing event. This is the official book launch for the Imagination Matrix, how to access the greatest power you have for creativity, connection, and purpose. So tonight we have a live audience as well as a streaming audience. So live audience, let's let the streaming people know that you're actually here. So go ahead and just make some noise. Howl. Channel your spirit animal selves. Okay. And streaming people, also you can make some noise. We won't be able to hear you except with our inner ear, but do something weird and wild right now, just so you know that you're here and yeah. Okay, so we're all here. Okay, let me acknowledge a few people. We have some incredible people here that if not for them, this could not have happened. So we've got the amazing Brie Beltran, right over here. Round of applause. We've got Claudia Boutot. Is Claudia here? Oh my goodness. Well, we know she's here in spirit. We've got David Thalberg. Is David here? Oh my goodness. Okay. John Ziegler, Christina Knight, Paul Matthew of West Beach Films, and all the people that are behind the scenes. Ruby from the Narrative Loft. This place is amazing. We love being here. This is gorgeous. And Steve's publisher from Sounds True. So round of applause to them. And just a little note about who I am. My mom said it was rude for me to talk to strangers. I don't want you to think of me as a stranger. So I am Kelly Sullivan Walden. People know me as Dr. Dream. I am a dream enthusiast. I am a podcast host. I write books. And I am on the faculty at the Shift Network, thanks to this one right here. And at the Shift Network, I had the opportunity to interview Stephen for last year's DreamWorks Summit. And we had such an incredible Beyond the Beyonds conversation. After it was done, we said, let's do this again. We must do this again. So when Stephen's book was in preparation for coming out, he said, would you interview me? And I said, you had me at hello. So I am so happy to get to be your MC for tonight. And let's see, what else? Without further ado, let me tell you about Stephen. Everybody here knows about Stephen Aizenstat, but let me just tell you, for those few people on the planet who don't know who he is the Chancellor Emeritus and founder of Pacifica Graduate Institute, Dream Tending, and the Academy of Imagination. For more than 35 years, he has explored the power of dreams. He's collaborated with legends like Joseph Campbell, Marion Woodman, Robert Johnson, James Hillman, Jean Houston, who you're going to be seeing a little more of later on tonight, and Native elders worldwide. He conducts dream work and imagination seminars throughout the United States, Europe, and Asia. And without further ado, everybody give a big round of applause to Dr. Stephen Aizenstat. Congratulations. His book is already a bestseller, by the way, on Amazon. #1 hot new release. And yeah, so, we still want everybody to buy books and keep that bestseller status going, but it's great to start already with such success. Yeah, mic drop. Okay, so we're going to be talking a lot about the Imagination Matrix, but how about if we begin at the end? Instead of talking about it and then bringing people into an experience, let's start with an experience and then unpack it. So from chapter 1 in your book, you've got a great experiential process.
Okay, Leah, let's do that. So let me invite you to take a moment. Let's close eyes if you're comfortable. Yeah. And as we all do, we know our praxis, and each one of us has it in a different form. So choose the form that's working for you now. Feet on the ground, Feeling your body in the chair. Yeah. Just a breath, couple breaths in, inside. Here. Just getting here. All of us, busy days, active lives, just to be present in community with one another, here now. All right, and let's gently open eyes. Coming back into community, in this community. I know we're streaming on many platforms, so all of you and dear friends and Dream Tending community and colleagues around the world, hello. Please join us in what we're about to do. Let's take fingers, 2 fingers, this way, yes? And we're going to do a very easy and quick idea to shift our paradigm. So this is focused. And just take a moment and with focus, or we're going to look right through this, putting these lenses of perception on, and just scan with focused eyes and notice what comes forward, just also simply. Nothing tricky, difficult, just scan with focused eyes. Now let's extend our fingers. Peripheral vision, wider vision, something many of us are familiar with. And now let's do the same thing with wide open peripheral vision. Yeah. Notice what begins to happen. Changing perspectives. We're opening curiosity is what we're doing. Righty? And now just noticing as imagination begins to form ever so early. Hands down. Deep breath in. Take a moment. All right, we're here now. We are here now. We are in community. We're present. Something brought us here together. For sure that. Friendship, yes. Something else as well. Intrigue, interest. So I'm going to invite us one last time, very quickly, closing eyes and getting curious about what has brought us here. And what intention? What intention do we have around being here? And reflecting now, what is being asked of me? What is being asked of me in this moment? Yeah, and if your eyes are closed, when you're ready, gently opening, coming back into community, we're shifting. We're shifting away from the everyday into another way of being present and being with one another. Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful. What's being asked of you?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? I tell you, I've been thinking about that because as the book has been coming forward, I've been on numbers of podcasts, of course, and talking to lots of people about it.
And I'm fix your microphone thing. Keep going.
Yeah, I continue
Technical stuff.
I continue to come back to that question, right? What is being asked of me? Truly. I mean, yeah, right? There's the easy part, what is being asked of me. Well, I know right now what's being asked of me.
We want to hear every word.
What's being asked of me is a microphone that is, yeah. All right, let's see what's going on. Like that.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
That might help.
Yeah. So what is being asked of me? And I've reflected on this, and particularly coming here. And it's new. It's not familiar. I mean, once upon a time, it was creating curriculum. Once upon a time, it was, well, way back, fulfilling an MA degree or a Ph.D. degree or getting a licensure. It's not that at all anymore. And I think at this station of life, it is something about giving back. You know, truly. Always has been for me. Truth of it is. And now more than ever, particularly with this book, how do I bring the work that is moving through me, that has a life of its own, this work, how do I bring it from inside here, from my daily praxis? I mean, this is an evolution for me from all the years that I've worked as a professor at Pacifica and university, and to years and years now, decades of work in the dream tending community and working with those folks, right? And cultivating dream life and tending to dreams.
Right.
And now that's evolving. And how do I bring that work, the new work, the work that's evolved through dreams into the world and offer that to people? Yes.
Well, I think you've done an amazing job. I'm
Well,
just going
thank
to
you for
hold
that.
this book right now. I'm just going to hold it. How did this book come to be? What inspired the Imagination Matrix?
Well, there's a long answer and a short answer. Right? I think, actually, what inspired the book isn't of the last 5 to 10 years only. It goes back. And it goes back to a time when I was a child, 12 years old. Actually, it goes back even earlier than that, when I was very little. And I would go to my grandmother, who's here with me today, in my heart. And we had a little teeny little room that we were in, and her little sandwich shop sold lots of hamburgers there. And I would get over there as a 2-year-old, just kind of 3-year-old, get over and crawl up these stools against the top counter. And she would offer me a little soda pop, orange, and some French fries. It was just a lovely experience. Loved it. She brings something that I never knew. She brought courage, first and foremost, and charity, service. She brought her heart into everything. Not one person would go into that sandwich shop and would leave without eating something, regardless if they had any money at all. Every morning when I do go into my praxis, she is very front and center for me. She is, completely. And actually, as I'm talking about her, I feel her presence now. And her father, my great-grandfather, that I've written about in numbers of places, the shoe cobbler, he was a master storyteller, and I forever have been in grateful in gratitude of his presence. Then at 12, something different started to happen. You know, I was exploring things. I was always curious as a kid. And I remember a family trip that we took. We went to the beach, because I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, right outside of Los Angeles. And we go over the mountains, over Topanga Canyon, and where I know you live, over Topanga Canyon, and end up at Zuma Beach. You know the place, Zuma Beach. All right. This is the family beach for people in the San Fernando Valley, right? Over the cliff there, over the hill.
Over the cliff.
Over the cliff.
That's another story.
Yeah, that is going to happen.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And we got there, and I'm 12, and they're, it's the big lifeguard stands, one after the next, and food advertised, parking, everything. It was all just what it was meant to be. And there were lots of people there, flood of people there. And the idea was, look, as my mother and dad said, particularly my mom, hey, this is the beach, we stay here. Okay. But my eyes wandered, and I noticed a big jetty going out into the sea. Right?
Your curious mind was intact.
My curious mind was attracted, and don't go there, right? And parents saying not to get over there. That's a dangerous place. But the ocean went out. Actually, it did, and I thought, well, I'm being drawn. I didn't think that consciously, but my curiosity got, and I did go. And I got over because the ocean went out. There was the little jetty, and so I walked around and sat on a rock, a kind of a coral rock. Okay, and honestly, I think this is really where it all started. Sitting on that rock, I was just noticing and really getting intrigued about all the little creatures in the tide pools and the seaweed and everything that was going on. I was just in a sense of awe, really, And then it happened. A voice from behind. Voice said, Did you know rocks could talk? I thought to myself, what? Rocks can talk? I mean, I've always thought that as a kid, but I didn't think anybody else did. Maybe I'm not nuts after all, right? I wasn't really fitting in that well in school. Did you know that rocks can talk? I said, no. Then I looked up, and there he was, 17, Surfer. But you know, when you're 12 and you look up and there's a 17-year-old, oh my
They are
God,
the coolest.
It is being visited by the deity, right?
It is true.
God in hiding right there, right?
Right.
Did you know rocks could talk? And I thought, okay. And I was just mesmerized, right? Actually, a lot of what I did in writing this book had to do with that state of consciousness, just at that moment, right? I was just in another time and place. I was inside what we call now, or what I'm calling the matrix of imagination.
Mm-hmm.
What happened is that I noticed after some time passed, the ocean. Yeah, the tide was coming in.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I thought, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
And now I have to get to the other side quickly, right? So I just changed my mind, went from that kind of to a very, goal-setted, got in. And I'll never forget this conversation. I got over there, and I think it was my mom again that asked, "Hey, Stephen, where were you?" And what am I going to say?
In that tone? Just, hey, where were you?
Yeah, where
Not
were
like,
you?
where were you?
It was kind of more like that, but I'm trying to be, I'm trying to preserve that kind of, much more like that. So and I said,
Young man.
where were you? What are you doing? You're not supposed to be, well, I just, what am I going to tell him? And back then, on that side of Zuma, some people had their clothes on, their bathing suits, others did not. So at 12,
Jennifer
yes.
remembers.
Yeah, so it was, there was a lot of
And we have
mysteries
pictures.
over there.
Oh, no.
No, we don't have
That's
pictures. No, there's
related.
a lot of mystery. So I started to explain, but I thought, wow, there are really two worlds, right?
Yes.
There's this world of those big food signs, the lifeguard stations, modernity, suburbia, controlled, dictated, the rules, the regulations, necessarily so, for sure, necessarily so. But wow, that other side, whoa.
Right. So in many ways, this book is a bridge. This book is for adults who have forgotten all of that to come back in and then go even deeper. It's not just about remembering. It's also taking it to the next place.
I think so, yes.
Okay, so there's something in this book that you talk about a lot, and I love the terminology, because you are a water guy. You are, we just, right before we came out, I said, just pretend we're going swimming in the ocean, and Stephen was like, oh! So, he's a water guy. But you had an experience with Earth that brought you to something called the dig. The dig. Tell us about the dig.
Okay. So the dig, right? That starts the journey.
Yeah, right.
The journey begins with the dig.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a name that I offer to my work, and I think each person, I encourage everybody in the book as well to find your own name, your own method. So many of us have a version of this integrated in our lives at this moment. But for me, it happened, it started when I was in the Pacific Northwest, actually, at a coffee shop. And they're ubiquitous up there. And my mentor lives there, so Russ Lockhart. So I decided, well, I will go make a visit to this coffee shop. And I just sat and I started doodling. And I am not a drawer. I'm not a painter. But I started doodling, and I got fascinated. And one doodle went to the next, and that went to the next. And before I knew it, I was like in this whole space of imagination and doodling this and that and the other thing. And I noticed something out of the ordinary occur. And that was, I was exploring, but not exploring the oceanic, like you shared, waters, right? I was going into geologic. I was going into Earth. I was really exploring what is underneath, right? And so I went and I spoke with Russ, and he said, it's time. Go. Just keep going. Go with it. Don't stop. Take the next number of days and just continue in your exploration of what lives in the worlds below the worlds, behind the worlds, between the worlds, this space, the dig. And that started me on a journey that's now, 15 years. And every morning when I wake up, the first thing that I do is listen to the dream. The second thing that happens for me is to do an active kind of imagining. I want to know all the things that are hard in life, the kind of shadowy type things. I want to know the things that are going well in life. And I want to remember, this is my remembering place, I want to remember the people that have meant so much to me, living and dead, and those yet to come, actually. So I take some time, and that's not a great deal of time, but it's about a good 15 minutes or so in that process. After dreams, this, then I start. And it goes like this. The call goes out, the gathering's happening, and the journey begins. And what that's about is that I wait for the figures of imagination, not my intellectual mind, my curious mind open now. And my grandmother's there, as I shared, my great-grandfather's there, and figures from dreams are present. Figures that I have met all through my life that are particularly important to me. They're part of that journey. Landscapes are important. Feelings are important. People are important. Creatures are important. When I was growing up, I had this precious little dog. Well, I'm going to remember him right now.
What's his name?
Oh, yes, we called him Puppy.
Puppy.
Yeah.
Oh.
He grew kind of big. But at the beginning, it all made sense. And Puppy is there, too, with me. You know, and over the years now, many others of quite significant value are there. And they have life of their own. They're not me, right? And they are their own entities, their own autonomous figures and beings. And I wait for the gathering to connect, right? For the folks to talk. One person's a guide figure. Another person has a kind of the puppy, and then others have followed animals that have that keen animal instinct. They're present. And the point is, here, is that I journey with them. Now, I don't take the lead. That's the difference that makes all the difference. I am not the lead figure, right?
Right.
The others are in a community, an inner community. And I allow myself to listen, to present, and follow. Yeah.
Oh, this is wonderful. So I hope all of you, as we're talking about this, and many of you who are present here already know Steve and you know this work, and those of you who are streaming in, some of you are already familiar with this, but some of you might not be. And I think what Steve's just talked about, and he talks about in more depth in the Imagination Matrix, is this beautiful morning practice where we have a naturally open mind because we've just been dreaming, and we carry over a little piece of the dream. First, acknowledge that, because if we don't, poof, it's gone. But then you call in the troops.
Yes.
You call in those beloveds. So you, even the ones that you might miss, whatever those soul companions are. So you've got a gathering. And I'm always on my front porch when I do this. So we're all in our own sacred space.
Right.
And then you start the doodle or the drawing that's not you in control. What I love about this is you are in the world an intellectual. You are somebody who runs an academy and an institute and all of these things. You're very smart, and yet what I love is that you're also a role model for being a goofball and a play, like to play a kid and to bridge this together. And I think this is pointing the way to Human 2.0. So let's talk about some soul companions. More, I mean, you talked about them a bit, but is there anything else you want to say about the value of soul companions?
Yes, that's who these figures are. They're not literal persons necessarily. They are companions, figures of the soul.
And they're not just departed loved ones.
No, they're not. They are figures that come forward in imagination and curiosity. They come forward in dreams. They are the figures of substance. Now, some people say, hey, that seems a little peculiar, esoteric, maybe multiple personality stuff. It can go all over. Not really. Not really at all. Actually, it's one of the most grounding things I do in my life, to be connected with and part of this community of soul companions. Because when I'm with them, I feel a sense of belonging. I feel a sense of presence. It's not an I anymore. It's a we.
Ooh.
It's a company of others. We're part of a traveling group on a journey.
So are they here right now?
Oh, they're here right now, yes.
So can you all invite your people into your soul companions? Let's just call them in, at least one good one. maybe a few, the departed loved ones, departed pets, and maybe some dream figures. It's crowded in this room in the best way. Yeah. I've got my grandma. I've got my dogs. Yeah, thank you. So there's more about the soul companions, about the way we're never alone.
No.
Even if we feel alone, we're never alone.
Never alone. Can you imagine? I mean, when I'm working with people, I've been a therapist for, 40, 45 years, a teacher.
Yeah.
Been with my own personal life, as we all have, and with each other in groups and couples and relationships and families. They're here, they're present. Even when they're invisible, they are so present and embodied. They have an embodied presence, right? Here now. When I'm working with couples in whatever place that I'm at, or partners, or colleagues, I'm aware that when two people meet, there's more in the room than just these two folks, right?
Yeah.
These soul companions are present. And it's really interesting to get to know them. More than interesting, very, very helpful. It enriches my life and the people that I'm working with, their lives as well. And then we can name them. We can name these figures. It's kind of like we don't name them, that's kind of the ego move, but we wait and listen, and we're present, and we allow that naming to reveal itself, the companion, the figures themselves. And in the book, I list dozens and dozens to help people, to facilitate the craft of evolving, discovering, allowing these figures to embody and to come into our life. But just a couple, just to share, right? The friend, the dear friend that we have in the wake life, right? The dear friend, the one that really got us, holds us. I'm looking out at you all, and there's a number of you here for me that are exactly that. In the world under the world, when they become illuminated, when they become embodied, when they become imaginal, when they're soul companions, that dearest friend can take on the image of the beloved, right? That's the beloved. And to be part of and present with the beloved of the soul is a difference, as we all know, that makes all the difference in the quality of a life, right? What about the one that's a witness, the witnessing presence, that one that's unconditionally here for us and witnesses what we do and brings us into our witnessing presence, right? Think of who that is when it gets illuminated in the world below, behind, between the worlds, in the place for me, the dig, for each of us, something different. That one. That one becomes, that witnessing presence becomes something of a wise owl, you see? It transforms, it illuminates into a figure, a presence. Think of the wise teacher. We all know this one. We all have the wise teacher. There's been wise teachers in all of our lives, and not necessarily at the school place or the education place.
That's for sure.
Often not, frankly.
Right.
But the wise teacher, when illuminated, when it embodies, when we go into the dig and go in preparation, which is all described. One of the things I really want to do with this book is just to create description simply, clearly, so people have the tool chest, right? Have the kit, the methodology to really allow these to come forward. But that one, that wise teacher, when illuminated, becomes something of the mentor. Can you imagine on the journey, what it's like to be accompanied with mentor, right? The wise owl, the beloved. You see, it's not me. I'm following the lead, right? And this goes on and on. And, now years have gone by for me in cultivating this praxis. And the more time that moves, the more people, figures, embodied entities that I engage with and encounter. And to landscapes. I mean, what are the extraordinary landscapes? All of us have landscapes that are special to us, right? For me, as you've heard, I'd love to go down to the ocean. That is a sacred place for me. But each of us, whether it's a backyard place, right? Or whether it's a part of a room in a home or in an apartment, all of us have places that are particularly meaningful for us. And that, too, is part of what it is to journey in imagination. But let's not leave out the troubling figures, right? Because, otherwise it becomes a romantic fantasy, to be honest about it. And we know the angst that comes into a life. And we know what it is to be in the world of today, and the grief, and the anxiety, sometimes despair, depression, isolation. We know, right? It's hard. So what about that? We can't just pretend that a journey in the world behind the world and the matrix of psyche and soul is all, no. So those figures too, you know, the critic, one, because I work so long with myself first and with others, the judge, that one, that's always got that message, that one, right? But when it gets transmuted, you know, because we have to work with these figures. It's not like you change them into something fantastical. It's that each of these figures, even the ones that have a shadow-like quality to them, becomes helpful in the journey. So that one, the critic, the judge, which we all know, think about it. In that world, it becomes a dragon, right? Think of the dragon figure, and think of all the stories in all cultures that talk about the fire of dragon and how it's destructive in one way and also very transformational in another way. Or the intruder, that's the one that's up right now when everything is cooking. And think of that one when transmuted. Yes, the intruder, right? Becomes something of a zombie-like figure. Zombie-like figure. Think about what zombie knows. Think about death. Death knows not dying, right? That one, death. Zombie, vacant. We've all been through one COVID wave or another, so we got it there, and of course in the world of today we're experiencing it in multiple ways. That one. Now it's not that they are redemptive, it's just that they bring their capacities, right? They bring their genius, their capacities to the journey. They have something to contribute, right? Okay, victim too. A lot of us experience ourselves in that victim position a lot. In this work, the soul companion, victim, when transmuted, has that sense of the wound, but also a sense of the healing. So there's a quality of wounded healer that's possible there. So the point, and there are many, many, which I name many here and direct. Many more.
So these are kind of, they're our own inner characters, our own inner aspects, and instead of just taking them at face value, like here's my judge, it's kind of like inquiring deeper into what might be redemptive or what might be the value. I mean, I had a dream once about an albino cyclops lumberjack, very specific, chasing after me with a hatchet.
Yeah.
But he became an ally because I realized, well, he told me later that he wasn't trying to hit me, he was just trying to chop away all of what was in the way of me being clear. So now he's kind of an ally, this albino cyclops lumberjack.
Yeah.
So is this one way that we can have a character that comes in a dream that can start off so frightening, and by getting to know them, they turn into an ally?
Yes, we get to know them. You know, we always get curious about what lives behind the veil, right? What lives behind the frightening or the intense presentation.
Right.
What and who, and what's the energetic that's present there. So helpful on the journey, in the dig, to get to know the aspects of each of these figures and how they contribute to the journey. Because you can see, you know, we're on a journey. Well, I'll get personal. I'll share for me, yeah?
Yeah, please.
So feeling left out, as many of my friends can attest, you know, that's hurtful to me. It's been like that forever. I was really teeny when I was in elementary school. I was like the shortest kid in the class, all the way through junior middle school. And that's hard, particularly with sports, because if you're the littlest one, everybody gets chosen on the teams, and I'm waiting for me to be chosen. Hey, look at me. But, you know, you get kind of passed over because you're kind of like this big. So left out has an early history, and of course it goes beyond that. But left out is a big deal, right?
Big.
Now, when the call goes out and the gathering happens, in addition to the other figures that have been very special and important to me, left out is a primary figure. How does that work in the world, under the world? Behind the world, in the dig, in the place of deep imagination? When left out is present, there is such a capacity a force. If we get stuck, if the troop gets stuck, everybody just look left out. There's so much energy, so much resource. Left out will just push everybody along. So in that space, it has incredible intentionality.
Yes.
And I could go on and on
Right.
with that.
The shadow work aspect that you touch in here is really powerful. And it's a beautiful way of being able to take any of these energies in us. And we all have them. I think no matter, I've done so much therapy. I've done every workshop. And I still have them. And left out is a big one for me too. And I would dare to say that it's probably one for all of us. Anybody here have left out, have a little sub-personality? Little character? Nobody's going to admit it, but I know you. Only one back there. She gets the prize. Here you go. Come get your book. But whatever those characters are, I think the way through it is through it. That's the only way. And to bring them in, and there's such great genius there.
Yeah. Well, when we're there, there's something that happens in consciousness. You know?
Yeah.
And I name that quality of consciousness for me, illuminated consciousness.
Yes, let's talk about that. Illuminated consciousness is a centerpiece, I would say, in this book. And you've touched on it a little bit while you're here. There's a lot of chaos going on in the world right now, where we could say that you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. And that illuminated state of consciousness, if we all could turn on that light and just be in that, then my God, the world might be a little bit different, maybe a lot different. So tell us about how illuminated consciousness came to you. You had an experience.
I did, and I don't share this experience in the book, but I'll share it here now. I was in Zurich on a lecture tour and offering a number of lectures in Zurich, and I was connected with the Jungian community there, the extended Jungian community there. And I received an invitation to celebrate a special occasion with a number of folks. But it wasn't in Zurich. And we had spent time in Jung's home in Zurich, and certainly spent time in a variety of other places. And some of the very extraordinary analysts internationally were present and offering this and that and the other. And then a number of us had the good fortune and really the privilege to be invited to go to Bollingen, which is the place where Carl Jung, the incredible person, core figure, he and the women and men that followed of the depth psychological orientation tradition, to go to Bollingen, which was a place for him and the family that they would retreat to. So there's outside of Zurich, up, and it's not a public place at all. It's very quiet, actually, and he built a tower of stones. And those imaginal figures that I was talking about, those soul companions, he was into very deeply, as for the women and the men that were following his work, sculpting them, painting them, writing about them, making them incarnate. Just incredible. I'm wandering around his home place, his actual family home, and I'm bumping into this figure or that figure sculpted in rock out in the backyard there. At Bollingen, it's a tower. It's just a stone tower. It's just classic. And nobody's allowed in it. It was kept very, very private, right? And but we all gathered there because the outside area was okay to be in, so we did that. And we had a barbecue, and we did our celebration. It was cool. Everybody's left, and then one of the members that had essentially grown up there in the family group said, "Hey, Steve, why don't you stay?" I thought, okay, that's a mystery.
Follow that curiosity.
I followed two things. My rational mind said, holy shit, I'm not going to figure out my way home. So I will stay if you promise one thing, that you will take me home in Zurich. I was, it's out far. And the second thing, I did get curious, and I thought, well, let's see what happens. He said, come on. And the catering was over, and he grabbed two bottles of, no food, well, he's a party guy. So 2 bottles of champagne, hands me one, he keeps one, pops them, the caterers take everything else out. Let's go. I go where? We're going to go up. Well, remember, this is sacred space, and everybody was incredibly respectful. You have to be. That's how it should be. He said, no, that's okay. Dude, I said,
Did you say dude?
I said, dude, we're not supposed to go up there. And he said, no, come on up. So we go up, and it's winding stairs, right, all the way up.
Wow.
One story after the next. Remember, no electricity, nothing like that. So it's like, we had candles is what we got up those rock stairs. And I'm going from one, and I'm feeling incredibly privileged, fortunate. I mean, I was really breathing this in, being filled with gratitude, really, for the opportunity.
No kidding.
Then we got to the second to the last story, and this is what changed everything for me. This is where illuminated consciousness actually originates for me. Right before the last floor, I look at the wall, and there's paintings everywhere, but this was from floor to ceiling. The whole wall was a depiction of Philemon, which is one of Jung's primary soul companions. And the picture of the Red Book, for those of you who know, is essentially very short, but it's much more than what I'm going to say, is one of the places where he spent a lot of his personal time, never published when he was alive, in his journaling and calligraphy and his history. Oh, it's an extraordinary piece of work. And I saw Philemon because it was on the book cover of this book, but it was a full moon that night. Remember, there's no electricity, so there are no lights, and I'm in this room, right? I never did take one sip of champagne, I might add. I didn't. He was going wild, but I just kept it cool. And I just looked, and it was the light of the moon off the Lake Zurich illuminating this floor-to-ceiling depiction of Philemon. Ooh. Oh my gosh. I just sat down, honestly, truly, and I was there for almost an hour or so while he was gallivanting, but I was just in awe. And at that moment, I got it. I think I learned as much, in some ways, about the idea of the autonomous psyche, of deep imagination, sitting there, than I have in many of the readings that I've done. It just came alive. And I thought, whoa, there's a guide, there is a figure that is of incredible presence and deeply meaningful in relationship with you.
My God.
Who are those for me,
Ooh.
And I think that was what got me the whole idea of really deepening even more fully into the Jungian traditions. I've been blessed to be with many friends and colleagues, many analysts that have really offered me the opportunity to look even more deeply into the traditions. Yeah.
Oh, I love this. And with the power of story, I feel like you just brought all of us into that tower with you, and now it's my experience. I don't have FOMO. I don't have to. We don't have to. Dreamers don't have to have FOMO. We could just dream ourselves in, and now it's mine. I love it. And in the spirit, I'm so glad you brought up Carl Jung, and there is a special person here, Robert Bosnak, and he sent in a beautiful video where he talks about kind of the lineage of Freud influencing Jung and many others that you've worked with. And now there's today, and you're kind of like that guy today. And so there's some wisdom that I would think Carl Jung would be very proud about. And you're taking it to the next place and making it relevant in this technological age. So can we play the little video of Robert Bosnak, please? Take it away. And
when Jung and Freud split up in 1912, it was over the interpretation of the Oedipus complex, and Freud said it was the attraction to the mother, and Jung said it was a regression back to the matrix of being, and the matrix of being, of course, is the creative imagination from which everything flows. And Stephen gives us a possibility to access that creative imagination, to access that matrix.
All right. There is a lot more that he said, but it brings us to here. So what I love about your book is that it covers the entire palette. There are stories, and there's scientific data. So you kind of stumbled upon some incredible scientific breakthroughs regarding imaginal intelligence. And there's something about a crown that shows up in the midst of this. This is from chapter 5 in the book. Would you be willing to share a little bit about your research?
All right, so, I'm meandering. Well, first, there are people in the field that are quite exceptional and extraordinary. It is, I feel a certain humility and, a humility in my humanity, really, to be able to have mentors that have gifted so much into the world. I want to say that. When I'm working with imagination, something started happening. So now, I'm going into this, I'm 5, 6, 7 years in, and I noticed that there was something shifting inside of me. And what was shifting was that there was another kind of intelligence that was emerging. I never imagined it like that, really, honestly. But there was something going on that I knew about, and I felt it. I felt it in my relationships with people. I felt it when I was working in an institution. I feel it when I'm consulting with big corporations and to little corporations, both. I just feel something at work. And when I evoke imagination in corporate sector or in community service or institutional life, something awakens, something opens, right? There's a different kind of intelligence in the room.
Right.
Yes. I mean, there is IQ, intellectual intelligence, there is that, right? And there's now emotional intelligence, which we're all very familiar with at this point. There's artificial intelligence, which when used in extraordinary ways can be, of course, facilitative. There's different kinds of intelligence. And then I noticed there's yet an additional, imaginal intelligence. So I thought to myself, what is that? What is going on? And then I realized, we haven't really shared a lot, but in the imagination matrix, there's quadrants, right? There's the earth quadrant. There is the psyche quadrant. There is the machine, the functionality quadrant. There is the universal or the more spiritual quadrant. These things all are intersecting, interplaying, interactive at all points. And when they intersect, something happens. And there's an elaborate diagram and explanation in the book, of course, but something comes awake. Something opens. And what opens is this kind of imaginal intelligence. And I thought, okay, is this real? It seems to be, because the work I've done with literally thousands of people over the years in dream groups and groups of imagination, all the consulting work, the teaching that I do, something's awakening. So I thought, well, let's see. If this is true, I wonder. I mean, there's a way of measuring intellectual intelligence, IQ. You take an IQ test. Emotional intelligence, now there are many ways of measuring our emotional intelligence and this and that and the other. Artificial intelligence is just blossoming now. A number of people in this room are working on the, cutting edges of that possibility. What about imaginal intelligence? I mean, how do you measure that? And if you measure that, can you even increase it? Well, my hypothesis was yes. If I go into the dig, if I'm in that immersion every day, my imaginal intelligence will increase. Well, I thought, how do we figure that one out? So then I put my other hat on, my hat of being in the university and doing the dissertation work, the research hat, right? All right, I'm going to figure this out. How do I research and actually measure and discover if there are ways to increase imaginal intelligence? I wanted to do it quantitatively and qualitatively. So 2 kinds of research through the Academy of Imagination is where I started the work, and it's going on to this day, but there's this one story that is really quite fascinating. So I discovered this group, really. It's a service in Los Angeles, and it has to do with measuring brain waves, because there's plasticity in the brain, and children have this very extraordinary structure in their brain. But as we get into the busy mind and we get programmed into this and that and the other thing, plasticity begins to decrease a little bit, right? And with that plasticity comes a lot of creativity and imagination, and when that decreases, that also goes on down. And now there's meta-studies that point to that, and I identify them in the text as well. What about this other idea, that when you're in the meditative mind, when you are really quiet and slowed down, right? something shifts. And what shifts is we go from that alpha brain waves, we don't need to get too scientific, but alpha brain waves into theta, right? Alpha to theta, just their definitions of how the mind is working. And when there's a crossover place, and when you cross over from alpha, think adrenaline, think, more to-do, more organized, mobilized, purposeful, to theta, a little more spatial, calm down. Theta, a good deal. That's a lot of meditation now is evolved from this idea. And I'm not an expert in meditation, and some people here are, so they know much more than I do about this, but there's that calming that happens, and theta increases, right? And it's really important. It's useful now. I mean, part of how we're dealing with post-traumatic stress,
Right.
for that matter, is attributed to working with imagination, increasing theta. So here's what happened. I go to Los Angeles, and I find this company called Divergence. Right? And they have they combine the sciences, they combine web, they combine that with AI. They've developed this whole system to measure going from alpha to theta. And they do it through meditation. And it's now practitioners, I don't know if it's worldwide, but certainly nationally, are all working with this kind of protocol. And they have very particular protocols. And you can measure it. So you put on the crown. Literally, we all know this at this point. You put on the crown, right? We all got that one. Right? You put on a device on your head, and it measures theta and beta, right? And if you go from alpha, I said beta, but alpha to theta, you hit the crossover, then you see on the screen, you get lovely biofeedback, right? Bing, 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 and little flames go on the screen, and it's all kind of cool. And the idea is to increase that, right? And you can do it with a little music going on or some other ways of working with meditation. So I thought, well, why don't we use that device and experiment with what I named the dig, with going into imagination. So not the quiet mind, not the empty mind, not that. Now the curious mind, the imagining mind, that place where, that state of consciousness where you meet your soul companions, you interact, you explore, you journey, you are engaged and involved, part of it. And they thought, yep. First thing they thought was, where do you live? I said, Santa Barbara. That was a sure giveaway. Next thing, that's in California.
Want to hug a tree?
That's in California. That's in California. So I got hooked up, and I was with two others, and we all got hooked up, and they had been working with me for a long time. So we got hooked up, and I went into the meditation. The crown was in. I saw the big thing. They all were watching. It was a whole gig. And, I was doing fine. I was, into my place and listening to the music, and the little flames that told me how much you're getting from alpha to theta were starting to go up a little bit. And then I thought, all right, game on. Game on, let's do this. Leaned back and went into my dig. I met my soul companions. There was grandma, great-grandfather, left out, the animals, they're all there. It was like a mega thing, just like I do in the morning. And what do you think happened? Whoosh, those flames went flying. There was it was a hush, and people started, they said, hey, come over, look at this. They're talking to all their colleagues. As it just went, Scott, 77% increase in theta, right? In that work. Imaginal intelligence, 77% increase. It makes sense. So that work, that quantitative work, is continuing. We're at the very beginning, but we're continuing that work through the Academy of Imagination and really bringing that forward to notice. And honestly now, person after person after person, when we're in that imaginative place, woo, theta increases, alpha decreases. We find ourselves changing in our body. Adrenaline goes down. Something else comes forward. Then we thought, okay, let's check it out qualitatively. So, I happen to be privileged to know a number of very effective research professors. This is what they do in life. So they designed 129 multiple choice questionnaire and 10 open-ended essays. And with all the criteria that we were looking for to measure what happens when imagination increases, what happens in the quality of your life, your creativity, et cetera, et cetera. And sure enough, right? Now I think about 1,000 people have responded just at the beginning of that as well. Quantitative, qualitative, the work is in. That this really does make I know that anyway, phenomenologically, experientially. It's just really interesting to have it, verified, and gives us new insight in how to move from here. But that is something that is really quite phenomenal that's happened, yeah.
It's always wonderful when science backs up what we already know to be true.
Yeah.
It's affirming. It's wonderful. And in this day and age, there's so much happening with psychedelics and there's wonderful breakthroughs with that.
Yeah.
But what's great, not everybody has access to those. They can't all go to do a ketamine clinic.
Right.
They can't all do psilocybin, but people have access to it's really all roads lead to Rome. And where we're wanting to be is in that, to have more theta in our lives. It's kind of the antidote. It's like the medicine. So because you say that you can't, I love this quote, you can't be curious and anxious simultaneously.
Yeah.
So anxiety is in epic proportions for good reason. There's crazy stuff going on in this world, but we can't solve a problem with the mind that created it. The solution is theta, and there are many ways to get there naturally. And not that psychedelics aren't natural. I mean, they come from the ground, but how wonderful that you are providing this, and there's data. So more theta, please.
Yeah, more theta, please.
More theta, please. I'll take another helping of theta.
Another helping of theta. Well, that's, when I'm journeying in the morning, the day changes. If I'm in my process, if I'm making contact with the soul companions, right, I'm feeling a different resonance internally, and I shift. And then when I'm into a family experience or a work experience, who I bring to that experience is very different.
Well, just like what you talked about the beach with the food signs and the very practical things, we need those things. We need that part of ourselves. We need to be able to know how to put one foot in front of the other and to turn on the car and to do all those things. We need to be able to pay bills and all of that. But I think we've maybe gotten too good at that, and we need more of this. We really, really do. So, yes, maybe not. Maybe not.
That is my passion around this book.
Yeah, the
It
bridge.
truly is. This is the passion that I have about this book. It's not the book only, it's the work that lives behind the book.
Of course.
Yeah, that is where it is. Because when I'm there in the morning, or when I'm working with so many others now, so many people, many of the programs that I'm offering are people that I'm encountering in difficult places, right? When we engage with that inner community of figures, that inner community, there is a sense of being home. Home.
Right.
There is a sense of belonging. I'm belonging. It's a deep belonging. I'm belonging to an inner community. We know we need the outer community.
Right.
But how great it is to be part of an inner community, an active member, and meander together, to journey together. And that, in turn, opens up creativity.
Well, it's interesting because I think when we have this inner community of these soul beings, these sacred parts of ourselves, and we stop being as needy of other people to affirm us and to invite us and to all of that, we become more magnetic. And then it's like the rich get richer. The more we don't need them, the more invitations we get. So, I mean, it really is, this is the inner work. So, innate genius. One thing that's very affirming is that you say that we all have an innate genius. Isn't that good to know? I mean, some of us think, oh, that person's a genius, that person's a genius. Hello. But, what about little o' me? But you say even little o' me. We've all got innate genius. So talk about this and how you came to recognize this from chapter 7.
Okay. Well, I began to notice, that we ordinarily ascribe genius to what we imagine, Einstein-like figures.
Right.
Giants. And they are. There's exceptional people doing exceptional things, no question. It's just that as imaginal intelligence opens, awakens, is cultivated, increased, something else begins to happen. People have a sense of belonging to this inner community of soul
Yes.
companions, right? And two, there's the beginning of, hey, who am I in all of this? Authentically, who am I? And for me, innate genius is to live in the congruence, in the actuality of my authenticity,
Right.
in the authenticity of my capacity. And I've worked with so many people this way, and I have many of them named and described and stories about them. Here and now, though, it's about, between the lines, on the lines. Am I really doing what I'm being asked to do? Am I really embodying what it is that actually authentically is moving through me? Am I doing
Right.
that? Or am I following a life script of somebody else, or the programmer's code for that matter?
Yeah.
Is that where I'm caught? And I get it. There's practicality on every level, for sure. I mean, I've done a lot in my life and with other folks. In addition to the practicality, though, when that innate genius begins to present itself, in other words, the authenticity that is opening and flowing from the depth, the soul, and the interactions with these soul companions, as the journey reveals itself more and more, I then begin to notice how that might look in my awake life.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I ask people, just take notes. Even if you're in an office space and you're in a cubicle, because I do a lot of consulting with tech firms, and behind the screen. And now it's not just tech firms, all kinds
Everybody,
of firms.
right. Everybody's got a screen.
Just as a little hint comes, just jot it down. And 5 days of jotting down the hints, the unexpected, the curious mind opening, and I got a little touch of that.
Right.
5 days of that, and patterns begin to present themselves. And who am I, right?
Oh, I think that is so important, because I think we all have these wisps of genius, and I think most of us are like, whatever. It's kind of like a dream. Like, it's just a dream. But there's this genius information that is coming in. It's just that we're like a fish in water. We don't even know that we're expert swimmers. But to take note of these moments of genius, and it's as if we're taking one step towards the genius, and it takes 10 steps toward us.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm thinking of this person that I worked with, Fred, who I named in the book. I'll just go very quickly.
Let's talk about Fred.
All right, Fred. So Fred, he's a very successful contractor.
Yes.
He is really effective at what he does. And a number of people actually may know this person. Really good at what he does. And he was not feeling it. Wasn't feeling fulfilled. He came to one of the workshops that I was offering, and I offered him that exact same, it's more elaborate than what I'm sharing very quickly now, but I offered him that idea. Look, Fred, over the next number of weeks, as you're walking down the street, in your workplace, when you're on screen, just notice. Open your curious mind. Get away from the busy mind. Yes, the wider lens.
Yeah.
Not the rational mind only, which is incredibly important and useful and constructive, the curious mind. And just start grabbing the hints. You know what happened to him? He did that. And he started to experience something new moving through him. Yeah, he was looking around and he said, I'm successful and it is fulfilling and my family is doing really well because of the work that I'm doing, but there's something really deeply missing in my life, like for many of us. And what's missing is his true love, his art, his genius was really not in the supervising the people and doing all that work. It was in actually working as a carpenter and constructing. And he started projects in his garage, and he started making things for the art of it, for the creativity of it. He started doing that. One thing led to the next. A year went by. He is now known in town. He's become a finished carpenter.
Oh my God.
Yeah, making beautiful things for many, many people. So he followed the hints, right?
Yeah.
The hints that were moving imagination, opened up his imaginal intelligence, started collecting the hints, saw the patterns, and then discovered the authenticity of what really, truly was his calling.
I love that. Someone once told me when it comes to writing or anything, if somebody else could write that book, let them. Write the thing that only you can.
Right.
So do the thing that only you can. And even just being in that question, well, if all these other people could manage all those people, then maybe I could, what else could I do? So you have been around a lot of luminaries, as you've mentioned. Some are in this room. And there was one that you met in China that really inspired you. And there's this section in this book also in chapter 6.
Chapter 6. Okay.
Yeah. And
You're talking about, yes, the artist, yes.
Zun Fun
Zun Fun Chi. Zun Fun Chi.
Yes, Zun Fun Chi.
I was on another lecture tour in China, and I just want to wish all my friends and colleagues in all the many places that I journey in Minsk, in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Eastern Europe. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's the community that's evolved around the Dream Tending and Imagination Initiative now is worldwide, and I go visit, as I know a number of people in this room do as well. I know all of our hearts are extended to these folks, what's happening in the world of today.
In fact, we could take a second right now
Yeah.
and just we've got thousands of people from around the world that are watching us right now, and many of those people are having a deep heartbreak moment. In fact, I think we all are to some degree. So let's just take a moment. And as Stephen was saying, let's just take this imaginal energy that we're connecting with through this imagination matrix and beam it out to all of them, to their hearts, and them back to us. Thank you, Stephen. Back to China.
I wonder about that. All right, the imagination matrix. What can I do in relation to the world of today?
Yeah.
Whether it's I feel overly technologized and too much screen time, or I'm experiencing the pain and the grief of what's going on in varieties of countries in the world.
Yeah.
And I think for me, when it gets to that place, it has to do with to deepen imagination, to touch into that innate sense of calling. It keeps me connected to my particular impulse, what's moving through me. I'm not so quickly caught in the conformity of what's the politics of the day.
Right.
And I think that's, of course, what's tough in the world of today, is to get caught in the news cycle or the social media cycle or the politics of what's cooking. So to really stay connected is to be able to sustain our relationship to that particular voice that really is asking and needing expression.
So we're not just reactivity machines, but coming from what is being called through us, so we can hear it and then act on that.
Yes, not reactive, rather responsive on behalf.
Exactly.
So in China, right? I'm in
Yeah.
China, back in Beijing. I'm on this lecture tour, and this amazing invitation comes to myself and a couple that I'm with. They both are Jungian analysts, and I'm with them. And we get an invitation to visit the most extraordinary painter in Asia. That's what he's esteemed as, like Zun Fun Chi. Pardon me if I mispronounce your name. Well, that is an opportunity. That doesn't happen a lot. He's extremely... first he's sheltered. He's in a big house, believe it or not, in Beijing. So to get to the house, you can only imagine Beijing as a world in itself to get there. And then there's no really such thing as a big house. It's a house, but it is a house. So in Chinese standards, it's a suitable home. He's an artist. And the downstairs is his gallery, where he's, not his gallery, his studio where he's painting. And the upstairs is where he lives. Okay, so we're invited. One of the analysts that I was with knew his sister, who lived someplace else in China, said, "You ought to go see my brother." Well, you got to be kidding. He doesn't, but for his sister, who he adores, because the two of she, as the story goes, is well known, really supported him when everybody else was pushing him away, and his artistic capacities was not seen with so many people, not seen by so many, but she did, and she sheltered him and supported him all through his junior high school, or we say junior high school, all through his earlier school years. All right, I walk in. At first you go through some gardens, and then you open the door, and then we're in. We're the only ones in there. This is the artist's studio, so there's like 5 or 6 paintings that he's working on, right? And I'm noticing, and it is extraordinary what I'm noticing. And then it happens. Just like that rock in Zuma Beach, here's another rock, right? So I'm there, and there's this painting that captivates me. It just totally like it happens for us, right? We get captivated by a painting. Well, I keep looking, and his genius is how he paints, which I didn't know anything about until I was in the studio and then discovered it from the inside out. It's layer after layer after layer after layer after layer of paints. And then every stroke is imagined into, and then he's changing the strokes constantly. So he's always working until what's emerging from the inside out starts to come forward and presents itself. So what I'm witnessing is actually the 5th or 6th incarnation of what's been displayed and what's moved through him. Well, I was transfixed. I really was. And I was just there, present, and noticing. And then I was so touched. I thought, whoa, what a metaphor for my life, I thought, and for other people. The innate genius just doesn't come on the page like that, right? It takes time to present itself through the different levels, through the different qualities of the painting. My breath was taken away. Evidently, he does not talk with virtually anybody. He saw me absolutely entranced, and he came over to me, and we communicated. He had some English. I had zero Chinese, even though I've been there many, many times, hard. And he offered a little of how he worked, and then he handed me some papers that he had written about how he worked. And I'll tell you, I was so deeply touched. I was. I think that's a story that you're referring to.
Yeah. And again, just like the tower, the fact that, I mean, the power of storytelling. I feel like you just brought us in, and there's something about thinking about or being in the presence of a great artist that is really rocking their innate genius, no pun intended, a little intended. It gets on us. It triggers that part of ourselves that in some way it's like a wavelength. So you kind of got some of that on you, and now you're paying it forward to us, and it's in here. So it's not, this innate genius isn't just for us. No. It's what we do with it and how we inspire other people. It keeps going.
I made a promise to myself. He was so generous of allowing us in. He doesn't allow anybody in. And then he took time with me. I thought to myself, and I was so deeply touched. I thought, I'm going to do something with this experience that's happened here. And that actually was the spark that lit that chapter on innate genius.
Isn't that the goal? I mean, for all of us to access the imagination matrix ourselves to such a degree that people just kind of walk by us, or they have a brief encounter with us and their lives are changed. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like being lazy, I guess, where we don't have to do the work. We just inspire people just by being. I mean, this guy was just being himself, and here you are all these years later talking about him. So I know that we're kind of getting to the place where we want to start to do some Q&A, but there's a couple things I want to make sure you talk about first. One is the goanna lizard, and one is the story web. So I'm going to let you, the goanna lizard, if you all, well, the book is just coming out today. And by the way, bestseller, all over the place. It's amazing. If you haven't already gotten your copy of the book, you really need to get it. It's not one of those kind of books that you even have to read. You can just kind of put it under your pillow and let it just, through osmosis, get into you. So if there's even somebody...
No wonder it's selling so well.
If you know somebody who is really stuck in being overly concrete and overly analytical, just kind of slip it under their pillow or slip it in their closet. I don't know. I think, because Christmas is coming up, everybody should buy 1 million copies. That's my commercial. I'm not going to keep going on commercial-esque but I really think we all should buy it. There's a few of these stories. I mean, all of these stories are in the book, except for one of them. But the goanna lizard, who wants to hear about the goanna lizard? Anybody? No? Okay, then we won't talk about it. It's okay. Just kidding. We're going to talk about it. Can you share about the iguana lizard? It's pretty amazing.
Okay.
It's scary.
You know, the matrix presented itself just here and now.
Ooh,
Just this moment in time. So this is real time.
go there.
Well, I just appreciating that what happened when I was a little boy at Zuma Beach with that rocks can talk.
Yeah.
I just have not made that connection before. And that's about the story. That's what I'm just about to share. No wonder. Now, look, you know, it's always when you read the book backwards, you start to figure out how your life is unfolding and what destiny is. Right? I saw my family, many of whom are here today. We went to Australia. I wanted to, and I was on sabbatical from Pacifica. And it was a whole thing to get us all together as a family, young children, and to go to Australia. And of course, I had this romantic idea because I saw it on National Geographic. If I'm going to go and, or if it was on the Nature Channel, I don't know. If I'm going to Australia, I'm going to meet an Aboriginal elder, and I knew exactly who I wanted to meet. Yeah. Oh my God, the arrogance. I mean, it's like, seriously. It's embarrassing, really. But I saw they did a biography on Bill Nugent, and he was the elder of the Dreamtime. And I was working with dreams. And Dreamtime, Australia, Bill Nugent, Steve, I would go over and just, you know, in my world, it's so embarrassing. I'd have a session with them. You know, it's like that. It's terribly embarrassing. So we went. And we started on the other coast and then went to the Northern Territories on the other side, which is where Bill Nugent was. So we got to that place, and we arrived there, the whole family. And I tried to meet this man. That's the whole purpose. So I thought I'd present myself as a university professor and go knock on the door, and Bill Nugent would offer me some office hours, right? So my thinking, oh, well, that didn't work. So then I thought, okay, that's not going to work, so I will be a cultural anthropologist. I did take one course in anthropology at UCLA, undergrad. That qualified me.
That's plenty. That's all you need.
It's enough, isn't it? So I tried that. That really didn't work at all. Then I thought, well, I will be a visiting scholar because I did get an invitation in Sydney, and I'll try that. That also didn't work. So finally, I just thought, oh, this is fickle. This is not working.
Let's just have a picnic instead.
Yeah, let's just have a picnic. So I just wandered around Darwin, which is the place we were in, and I went in and out of art. Aboriginal art is stunning, as many of us can appreciate and touched by. And this woman said, yes, well, there is a place you can go to. And I'll tell you, well, what brings you there? Why? Well, something happened in our family just like over the last days that I need to tell you, I need to talk about. What happened? She said, well, you know, when we landed, we heard that there's like these salties. These are the crocodiles that live in the ocean. Like they're dangerous. Like if they eat you, you're dead. And so you don't want to be around them, so you don't go in the water if you see a salty crocodile. That's not what is a good thing to do, right? Okay, we thought, perfect, we won't do that. No ocean swimming for us. You know, that was a downer. But no ocean swimming in these restricted areas, okay? Then our family took a hike, packed the lunch, you know, in the picnic basket, 2 young kids, 3rd kid on the way, all there, all ready to go. And we start going, and then our daughter, says, hey, look at. And we go, what's that? What's moving in the water? And it was reptilian. Holy shit. First thing goes, am I going to tell the difference between a salty crocodile or a freshwater crocodile? No. This was neither, but it was still reptilian, and it seemed to me it was a crocodile, right? It was a iguana lizard. But you know, iguana lizard is very big. Yeah. So it started coming after us. And we were told in Darwin, If you see a guana lizard, if it's approaching you, don't run away. Don't chase it. Don't be aggressive. Just kind of be cool, because it'll crawl on you and bite you and stuff. And I'm with 2 children, young, and my wife, and it's like, oh dear.
And she's pregnant.
She was pregnant at the time. Yes, it was all tricky. And we had the obligatory lunch in the basket, the rice cakes, the honey, everything that was appropriate for that time, the whole gig. And so we set it all out, but the guana came, and I did everything that I knew what to do, which was to say, all right, I remember reading that little pamphlet, and I was told, so let's just walk away. And we're going to walk away, but not make a big commotion. We did. Walked all the way up this river, over this hill, to another little valley-esque place along the river, and just put out the thing. And our daughter again said, iguana. It's a iguana. The iguana is back. The iguana is back. All right, now I'm getting in my male ego bullshit self. Got a little, and those were the days of the, back when it was the men's movement and Robert Bly, and I was all Iron John, for those who remember that reference, and I was all
Unga
mega
bunga.
macho. And so I decided to pick up some sticks and slam them on the ground. You're not going to attack my family. Get out of here. You're out. I mean, I was loud. I was really into it. As I was doing that, the iguana looked and then started approaching again. Oh shit. And daughter again, no, Dad, the iguana, it's back, it's back. We didn't take patience. We just threw everything in the basket and just went all the way from there to the car as fast as we could, forgetting anything else. Barely got to the car. And as we're walking towards the car, guess whose voice we hear again? Our daughter. Guess who's chasing us? All the way to the car, the iguana. Right? All right. So that was the experience. I go home that night. We're in Darwin. Sleep. I have a dream. Big dream happens. I don't have time to share the whole dream. Dream happens. Follows this thing. And it was like, whoa, okay. I have something I want to talk to Bill Nietzsche about. If I can find him, I want to share the dream with him and this experience. I'm here in his home place. He's going to share with me what I could think about. But so it didn't happen. Then finally it did happen. Finally what happened, I was in an Aboriginal art store, as I've shared with you. And she said, well, what brings you here? I said, oh, believe me, you don't want to know. I'm embarrassed to even talk about it at this point. It's well, say more. Okay, well, I'm here to do, well, tell me more about yourself. And I told her about myself and what was going on, the work I was doing. And she was married to an Aboriginal man, and the man that she was married to was very much a part of Aboriginal culture. And she said, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to go home, I'm going to get permission, and then I'm going to come back and we'll talk. Meet you here tomorrow. Came back the next day, said yes. Here's what I'd invite you to do. You go down this dirt road. I mean, there's not street signs. Things aren't paved, right? It's not like that. So you go down this dirt road, and we had this old rent-a-car kind of Jeep jalopy type thing that kind of works and kind of doesn't work 2/3 of the time. Go down that road, and then you keep going, and then when you see the first river crossing, you go to this side of the river crossing. First, I'm challenged. That's why I can have a lot of objection around AI and around technology, but I don't know what I would do without Google Maps. I'm just saying.
Ways.
So there's some beautiful things. Anyway, so I go there, and I finally find the place, right? I finally find it. And I thought, what the hell are we doing? It's a single little building, and it has post boxes in it, post box, okay? And what's happening is, she said, go there the 3rd Tuesday of the month, which is what I did, and went there. And the reason that she said at that time of day is because when they deliver the mail. And once a month, everybody comes, all the tribes come and get their mail. And that's where they get their checks, their government checks right there. Well, there was that, and then right next door to it was a fast food chicken place. Not really fast food, but they sold chicken, greasy chicken, fried chicken. I got fried chicken. I was there. I'm going to make this story now shorter and shorter. Yes, I get the cue. So, I mean, when you're meeting somebody I can't speak the language, obviously, because coming from the outback, from the bush, the whole tribe came. And I knew immediately Bill Nitaji. I knew exactly who he was. I saw the picture on the television, and also it was pretty obvious. Everybody humble. I mean, he had already gone back into eldership, which means he's left the civilized, quote, world, big quotes, and back into his community, his tribe, his clan. And he said, and so what am I going to do? Oh, I'm here to ask you about this dream. No, that's like pretentious and arrogant, really. So I just sat next to him with patience. And some people can do music, and that's really a good way to communicate. I can't do music that well, so I didn't do it that way. But I did eat that greasy chicken, and I kind of like touching people, so I had grease all over this way. He was here, I was here. We kind of rubbed up against each other a little bit. And then after literally an hour goes by, at least an hour. And he finally said, "Who are you people? Who are you people? Who you people?" Right? So I had to figure that one out first. I said, "Oh." And then I told him the story about my great-grandfather. I don't know how much he really understood me, but I shared the story. And he said, you dream? You dream? I go, "Oh, yes, actually, there was a dream." "Oh, tell dream." "No, tell dream now." So I shared dream, and I think he understood more than he was letting on, because he said, "Oh," and the dream was of a guana lizard, right? That guana that was chasing us. That was in the dream, and it was chasing me in this dream. And I went through this whole thing. Oh, my gosh. And then right at the end of the dream, right before I thought I made it through, like alive. And right as I took the last step, pow, I had a shot right through my, yeah. And I was happy to wake up and breathe. So that was still here. That's the dream I shared. He said, "Oh, big dream this. You go." "Well, go where?" "Go on the dreaming place." Because in this culture, the story web is so, you're part of the dreaming. And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this, because I'm not. But go to dreaming place. And that's how you understand your dream. It's not like getting an interpretation or an analysis. No, it's not like that. You go to the actual place of the dream, experience the thing. That's why the rock in Zuma Beach just touched me. Mm-hmm. I went to this place, Guana Dreaming. It was in Arnhem Land, so you can't go in. I'm this color. I'm not Aboriginal. I cannot go to Arnhem Land. It's stopped. But the guy and they have beautiful, I'm going to say rangers, that are there, that are guarding the place. Beautiful people that really they care about the Aboriginal culture, and they really want to keep it protected. He said, "You can't go in there." "I'm sorry." "Oh." I said, "Oh, it's too bad, because I just visited Bill Nitaji," and he said, "Wait. You were able to talk with Bill Nitaji?" I said, "Yes." "Oh, go." He said, "I've not even been there, but I know what you're looking for. Just go that way." I said, "Okay." I went, and I found Guana Dreaming. It wasn't hard to find, because it looked like a big
rock.
Rock of guana.
A big guana.
A big guana rock right there. So I went to Guana Dreaming, and then what happened is what probably informed the rest of my life, that moment. What happened is not words, really. I didn't even know what the heck was going on, but I felt something really deep inside. It was a somatic, a body experience, not a mental experience. Something just felt like it was coming through me. I didn't know what it was, but my body was shaking, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, big, okay." And then I went back, and I thought, okay, something is happening here. Not sure what's going on, but it's something big. Then the revelation came, and that happened 3 years later. I was asked to go to the United Nations, right? United Nations on behalf of the Earth Charter International. Then from there to go to The Hague, and there was a conference with world leaders. I was invited because I was doing the work at Pacifica, and 2 people from the United States, and then 2 people from a number of other countries, only about 60, 70 of us there. Very esteemed, experienced. The names are recognizable. I don't need to do that.
Gorbachev.
Okay. And Gorbachev was chairing, and Marie Strong was from Canada. I mean, there's a whole... And I was clearly the youngest and clearly the least experienced, yet I was there. The other person from the United States was Stephen Rockefeller. He was part of that.
Wow.
And so the two of us were representing the U.S. And everybody's representing different things. I was representing the depth psychological tradition and orientation. And I had worked for months with my colleagues at Pacifica and people in my extended community to really come into, the idea was to craft an Earth Charter with 10 principles that would then be distributed and all the countries adopted first by the United Nations, then put out there. And then be adopted and put into soft law. And actually, here's what happened. And this is where the story, not out of intention. It's fate, really.
Right.
4 nights, 5 days, we come to the ending, the closing. And everybody has put their heart and soul in this. I mean, these are career diplomats, people that are leaders of countries. I mean, this is like a big deal, and they put everything into it with all the expertise and their experience. Just trying to craft the charter, the wording. Gorbachev stands up in the last moments. Everybody's ready for, yes, we've done it. And he stands up and says, I'm sorry, we have failed. We have failed in our attempt. This is not working. And so I pronounce this an ending and not something that we can go into the world with. Okay, I'm at the podium because of the luck of the draw. Now, remember, I'm a little shaky up there. The last person up to go. And then I felt it. Not my mind. I didn't know what the heck to say. What do you say in a time like that? I don't know what to say. But I felt that same thing at Goanna Dreaming come through my body. And it just came through my body without my conscious rational mind at work. And I said these words. I said, perhaps we're asking the wrong question. We're asking, what can we do to save the planet? And the question we could be asking is, what is the planet asking of us? Gorbachev stands up. Marie Strong stands up. Yes! Good. Go out and do that. He says, right, go out and do that. Well, the World Council of Churches was there. 3 or 4 other big entities were part of that. And for the next years, that's exactly what we did, was how do you gather the response to that question? Through dream and imagination, not through the rational mind.
Whew. I love, okay, so many things. And as we wrap this up, because this is powerful work. I love what you say at the end of the book. There's a beautiful section on page 195 about the ritual of service. So we're going to wrap up this part of the program, and then we're going to have a little Jean Houston. We got a video from Jean Houston, and then we're going to do some Q&A. So I know we're past the time that we said that we were going to do this, so we understand if anybody needs to do what they need to do. But just know that we can stay probably at least another 20 minutes to do Q&A, because we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear any of your questions or comments or thoughts or percolations or whatever Goanna lizard energies coming through you. We'd love to hear it. So to wrap this up, maybe we need a candle for this. Bree, we don't have a candle? Okay, so does anybody want to play the role of the candle if we were in a dream? Just kidding. We do have somebody. Okay, we're going to imagine we're lighting a candle. All right, page 192.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is in service of living an imagination-centered life, right? Something different happens when I'm living an imagination-centered life and the people that I'm working with. We talked about when we're in imagination at that level, curiosity opens up, innovation opens up. It's no wonder that Harvard Business School now is featuring imagination over business planning. Imagination incubators are now making their way into many, many corporations. Imagination. Here we're accessing the autonomous imagination, the deep imagination, the imagination that has life of its own, reveals itself through dream, through the figures that we discover on our dig, or the equivalent to the journeying in deep imagination. And we know that when that happens, when we're in that place, our depression begins to subside. It does. Anxiety lessens. Creativity comes forward more fully. It's an incredible additive to the quality of life. And so through this, something else happens. And it comes, I think, what you're alluding to. It happened to me in many different places, but at the Hague, at that point in time, it was a big deal. By the way, that Earth Charter International got voted down twice. First one by the United States, sadly, and the second one by China, sadly. Now it has been adopted, and it's in thousands and thousands and thousands of organizations and communities around the world.
That's incredible.
So, ritual of service, this is how the book ends. It's an invitation, because now we've made the journey. Now what do we get back? How do we get back, right? So it goes like this, and that's what I think you were alluding to around the candle. To begin with, I invite people to find a quiet place. It's always turning off the rational mind, isn't it, for all of us? To invite the quiet mind, to invite the curious mind. We light a candle, because the candle evokes psyche from the beginning. Anytime I work with a dream or work in deep imagination, I'll light a candle to get me out of this chatter and into a different quality of presence and response. So we light a candle, right? And then we ask, just in reflection, after everything we've listened to, what is the world asking of me now? Right? What is the world asking of me now? Mm-hmm. Not the script. Allowing the imagination of place, of creatures, of things, the imagination, the aesthetic, the poetics of psyche. What is being asked of me now? And we listen with open ears and curiosity. And that's what happens next, is opening curious mind. We open curious mind and just hang there for a bit. And then we wait. And I think it's always helpful to wait for the unexpected, the surprise. It doesn't have to be profound or huge, just the hint of the unexpected. And what that does is it invites the awakening story. The awakening story. At the end of the day, what I discovered through all of this is that what lives most intricately in the imagination matrix is a story web. The imagination matrix is a story web. And all these figures have stories to tell. Stories to tell. And it's the capacity of me taking the time and the support to listen to the stories as they move through imagination. So.
Beautiful. This was so important and so amazing. When in doubt about what's going on in this world and what our role is to ask what would be useful. How could I be useful? What's there for me to do now? As opposed to why isn't everybody doing it my way? But if I could have it my way, the video of Jean Houston would play now. So, and as this is playing, if you want to rally your questions, if you've got any questions for Steve about the imagination matrix, you might want to percolate on those. So let's roll the video, shall we?
And the deepest power of the book is it is a wake-up call from Central. Somehow, the mind of the universe has actually gotten into the book. It's a whole way of being that makes you come awake, come alive, come together, create and co-create.
So, Who's got a question? And I know we've got an online group. We've got thousands of people from around the world, and we don't have time for thousands of questions. Maybe hundreds. Just kidding. We're just going to take a couple. Bree.
Yeah, Kelly,
Okay.
thanks.
Oh,
We've got an online question from one of the members of our dream tending community.
you might want to come over here so it doesn't feedback. Get a little closer to us.
Yeah. Okay.
I might bite like a go on a lizard.
That's
Just
okay. That's okay.
Okay.
So one of the members of our dream tending community, Miss Karen Blankenship, is asking Steve, what are you most excited about as you bring this work into the world?
Yeah. I'm excited about involving myself with others in communities of praxis, where we are engaged with one another, supporting one another in cultivating an imagination-centered life. That is what is most interesting to me, and we can do it. And it's really different when I'm working in community than when I'm doing it alone, when I have people that can speak the same language, that we understand one another, that we have empathetic regard for each other. I mean, really, what's at bottom? Love, right? Eros, totally. When I'm in touch with the figures of imagination, when the journey is over in the morning, I feel something different. I do. In fact, the biggest new discovery that I've made over the last 6 months or so is that when I bring myself to this matrix of imagination, it's not even mental. I feel a somatic resonance, a body response, and I just breathe more deeply. It's just like, really. So I'd love to be with others when I'm in that, in this experience.
if I was going to put it in a nutshell, I would just say human 2.0 as a result of all of that theta. Okay, I saw a question over here.
Let me get
Let's get your microphone to you. There you go. Please speak right into it. Thank you.
My question is, when in the morning when you're digging deep and you're getting together with all these entities and spirits and so forth, are you hearing those messages come to you in a kind of knowing from the source, or are you hearing it in your own voice, or are you hearing a different voice?
That's a beautiful question. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's happening for me is no thing, nothing, no mind. So I'm in the journey, right? And I just pause. I keep my curiosity open, because then I'm not thinking things through or trying to make things happen. It's not active imagination or guided imagery as it's usually framed. I'm not in that at all. But I bring myself to a place and I wait for, and the reason that I'm bringing myself to the place is not because I'm leading, because one of the other figures is I'm following. I'm just a complete follower in that praxis, in this praxis. And then I listen. And they speak from the inside out. The figures speak, they have voice, and I just or like that. Sometimes I, along with the other members of the troupe, find myself in a location and it's extraordinary, and I'll make a depiction. Other times there'll be a person, a figure, one of the soul companions will just give voice to something, and I listen, and then I write down. Yeah. So it's really quite remarkable. It offers enormous guidance.
Do you have a voice of like, what the hell am I doing? How am I doing this? I don't have time for this. Do you put that aside? Do you even have that? I know for me, sometimes I have to work with that. It doesn't just disappear, and I just kind of work around it
So that
until
one,
it goes away.
Yeah, that one, this is full of, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
Yeah. That one has a name too.
Okay.
So when
You bring it in.
Yeah, when it's brought in this realm, journeying in the deep imagination, its name is Outlaw.
Outlaw.
Outlaw is great.
Ooh.
Because Outlaw
These
will
characters need good names.
yeah, this one just goes off the charts and will just discover the undiscovered. So it's really great to break through and be with that
That's
one.
great. Okay, another one from our streaming community.
Yeah, thanks. We've got time for our last question, and
Yeah.
this is coming from Paul Brucker. Steve, he is asking on your thoughts for what's next for you after this book, and any other ideas that you're exploring for a book or a course or any new life coming events.
Isn't it funny, once you've given birth to Big Bertha, a big one, then they're like, what's next? Like, can I just hold this baby in my arms for a second? But it's a great question, because there's always the next. As Joseph Campbell said, the end of one hero's journey is the beginning of the next. Did he say that? Maybe I said that. I don't know. Somebody said that. What's
Well,
next?
3 weeks ago, it was the book launch, 10 more podcasts, 3 more, visits at different places in the country.
You're on a book tour.
On the book tour, and then the new year comes, and I'm free! Free at last.
Yeah.
Oh, that was 3 weeks ago. Now I'm into it, and it's not the ambition of writing another book, but there is the love, I think, of allowing the stories that are coming through to find expression. So what seems to be emerging is a desire to be placed with soul companions in different contexts, and not shuffle around contents, but be in different contexts and write one story after the next. They'll go beautifully with what's evolving here in this book. And also, of course, I'm continuing to work in the dream tending and imagination community, so we do teaching and we do service and work. And I'm particularly partial to the Pacific Alumni Association, and I forever want to be part of that endeavor, because that's taking the work of tending soul, psyche in and of the world into the world. So I am always deeply touched by the involvement that I have there.
Wow. I don't want this to ever end. On a parallel plane, it will go on and on. But I know I speak for all of us here and all of us out in the universe, in the streaming verse. Thank you. Thank you for sitting on that rock that day, being a little naughty and getting in trouble, and hanging out with the rock star kid, and tracking these important moments, and doing this incredible work at the UN on the level of the Earth Charter, and for taking this message that some would say maybe woo-woo, but making it very concrete and making a bridge for all of us. And I do feel like you are standing on the shoulders of Freud, Jung, and James Hillman, and all of them. And we're all with you. Mm-hmm. So I know your ancestors must be so proud today. Mm-hmm. And I know all of our ancestors who are in this room are proud of all of us. And may we all go forth and multiply inside the imagination matrix. Go forth and multiply all the books that you buy for yourself. Christmas is around the corner, because really, as one is lifted, all are lifted, and as one is deepened, all are deepened. And wouldn't it be great if we could all walk out of this space and be those kind of people, like that artist in China, where you just brush by us and there's a happening, there's a quickening. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be amazing.
As I fast forward the movie, I think that's what happens. Human 2.0, and I think this is the quickening. This is the blue pill and the red pill. I had to go there. I'm sorry. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here live, and thank you, everybody, for being here still alive, but being out in the virtual world, and for being part of the technology that is our friend. It doesn't have to be the enemy. It is an important part of this world, so we embrace you, and we thank you. And again, to everyone here at the Narrative Loft, and to all of the folks at Dream Tending and Pacifica University, Pacifica Institute, and all of you all here, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And so it is. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
We have a toast. We're going to do a toast, yeah?
We'll do a toast.
All right. So what we're going to do, because I think we're signing off from that world. We're only in this room now, and we are going to, oh, no, while we're still streaming, Stephen, you and I are just going to do a toast symbolically on behalf of all of us. Oh, wow, a wall of champagne. How cool is that? I must be dreaming. All right, so now at this point, I don't know what we're doing. I've just gotten drunk looking at that, and I like it. So are we still streaming? So this will be symbolic. So those of you who are streaming, grab something bubbly, even if it's just water. You can just, and we're toasting to Steve, but we're really, because there's only one of us here, we're toasting to the Steve within all of us and the imagination matrix within us all. So here we go. Cheers. Happy book launch day.
Thank you.
Mazel tov.
Yes, well, thank you so
So
much.
many blessings.
Thank
Woo!
you.
Okay.